The first sign of trouble came when the sky tore open above the city. A rip in reality shimmered like a wound in the air, spilling out ships of alien design. Their sleek black hulls glistened under the sun, bristling with weapons that hummed with an unnatural energy. People below screamed as the first beams of light struck the streets, sending fire and smoke into the air. Among the chaos, soldiers scrambled to set up defenses. Human fighter jets roared overhead, launching missiles toward the intruders, but the alien shields shimmered and absorbed the blows like rain on glass. The air shook with the roar of engines, the cries of the wounded, and the shrill war horns of the invaders. Every second felt heavier, every breath harder to take. Daniel Cross, a former Special Forces soldier now working in a security firm, was on his way home when the attack began. He ducked behind an overturned vehicle as plasma bolts burned through concrete nearby. His instincts screamed for him to run, but something in him refused to leave the fight. He gritted his teeth and scanned for any survivors who might need help. That was when he saw her. Standing amidst the smoke and fire was a woman unlike any human he had ever seen. Her skin was the color of a deep ocean under moonlight, her long white hair flowing in the heated wind. Her golden eyes were locked on the alien beasts charging toward her. She wore armor marked with strange glowing runes, and in her hand, she held a blade that pulsed with raw energy. The creatures around her were not soldiers, but massive, snarling beasts, their jaws lined with rows of needle-like teeth. They moved on all fours, their clawed limbs tearing through the wreckage as they lunged for her. Daniel could see she was surrounded, her weapon cutting them down one by one, but their numbers overwhelming. He knew she would not survive alone. Without thinking, he grabbed an abandoned rifle and sprinted toward her. The ground quaked as a beast leapt in his path, but he fired a controlled burst into its head, sending it crashing lifeless to the street. The alien woman turned toward him, her expression a mix of surprise and urgency. She shouted something in a language he did not understand, but the meaning was clear. She needed him to cover her back. They fought together, moving in sync as if guided by instinct. Her blade sliced through thick hide while his bullets punched through armored skulls. The air was thick with smoke and heat, but they pushed forward, cutting a path toward a collapsed building where they could take cover. Every step was a gamble, every movement a race against death. When they finally reached the shelter of the ruins, she stood before him, breathing heavily. Her golden eyes fixed on his with an intensity that made the chaos outside fade for a moment. Then she spoke in broken English, her voice both fierce and desperate. "Guard me, human, and I'll be more than grateful." Daniel stared at her for a moment, the sounds of the battlefield roaring outside their fragile cover. Her words were strange, but the urgency in her tone made him understand that this was not a request born from fear alone. There was something deeper in her voice, something that told him she was no ordinary alien warrior. She glanced toward the street, her blade still glowing faintly in her grip. Her breathing slowed as she focused, her golden eyes scanning for movement. Daniel reloaded his rifle quickly, his hands moving with the kind of precision that came from years of training. He had no idea who she was or why she was here, but one thing was clear: if they stayed in the open, they would not last long. A shadow moved across the light pouring through the broken wall. The alien woman stepped forward, her body tensing. As the snarling of the beasts grew louder, Daniel stepped to her side, ready to fire the moment anything came through. When the first creature lunged, she moved faster than his eyes could follow, her blade slicing it in half before it could touch the ground. He fired at the next, the recoil pushing against his shoulder as the bullet tore through its skull. The creature dropped instantly, but two more pushed forward, their glowing eyes locked on them. The woman leapt into the air with a grace that seemed impossible in the heavy armor she wore, landing behind the beasts and striking them down before they could react. When the last one fell, she looked back at him and nodded once, almost as if approving his presence. Her armor caught the light, revealing patterns and markings Daniel had never seen before. They looked ceremonial, almost like symbols of rank or heritage. He wondered if she was some kind of leader among her people, but now was not the time to ask. The building shuddered as a loud explosion ripped through the street outside. Dust rained down from above, and Daniel could hear the alien ships hovering lower. The woman turned toward him, speaking quickly in her language before switching to a strained version of his. "We cannot stay. They hunt me. They hunt you now too," she said. Her words were clipped, but the meaning was crystal clear. Daniel motioned toward a side alley he had spotted earlier. If they could avoid the main street, they might stand a chance of slipping away. She followed without hesitation, her movements fluid yet always ready for combat. The ground was littered with debris, each step crunching under their boots. Somewhere in the distance, a child cried, but the sound was quickly drowned out by the howl of another beast. They reached the alley just as a patrol of alien soldiers passed on the main road. Daniel pressed his back to the wall, holding his breath as the woman crouched low beside him. Her hand rested lightly on his arm, and he realized she was listening, not just to the sounds around them, but to something beyond his human senses. After a moment, she whispered, "Clear, move." They sprinted through the narrow path, weaving between broken market stalls and shattered walls. The air grew colder as they moved farther from the burning streets, but the silence was no comfort. Daniel's instincts told him that danger was never far behind. He glanced at her, seeing the way her eyes never stopped scanning their surroundings, her blade always ready. Finally, they reached a collapsed tunnel entrance. The woman stopped and studied it, her gaze sharpening as if she recognized the place. She stepped forward, brushing her fingers across a piece of metal embedded in the rubble. Symbols flared faintly beneath her touch, and a hidden door slid open with a low hum. Daniel stared in disbelief, realizing this was no ordinary hiding spot. It was something built for her people. She turned to him, her golden eyes locking on his. "Inside, safe for now," she said. Her voice carried a weight that made him obey without question. As they stepped inside, the door sealed behind them, plunging them into dim blue light. Daniel could feel the tension in his shoulders ease slightly, though his mind still raced with questions. Who was she? Why were these creatures after her? And why had she chosen to trust him? The chamber they entered was unlike anything Daniel had ever seen. Smooth walls curved around them, glowing faintly with blue light that seemed to come from within the material itself. The air was cooler here, clean and almost sweet compared to the smoke-filled streets above. Strange markings ran along the walls like rivers of light, pulsing slowly as if alive. The alien woman walked ahead without hesitation, her footsteps silent on the metallic floor. She reached a central console and pressed her hand against it. The surface lit up under her touch, revealing holographic symbols and maps Daniel could not understand. Her golden eyes scanned the information quickly before she turned toward him and spoke. "They will search every block. This place hides us for a short time only." Daniel took a slow breath, his rifle hanging loosely in his hands now. He could see she was still tense despite the apparent safety. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Why are they after you?" he asked. She tilted her head, as if deciding how much to reveal. Finally she said, "I hold something they fear. Something they would kill to keep from you and your kind." Her words made his pulse quicken. The way she spoke made it sound like more than just a personal fight. It was something larger, something that connected their worlds. Before he could ask again, a sudden chime echoed through the chamber. The woman's expression darkened as she approached another panel, her fingers dancing across the glowing controls. A small orb rose from the floor, projecting an image of several alien soldiers moving through the city above. "They are close," she said firmly. "We must move before they bring the hunters." Daniel's grip on his weapon tightened. He had seen what those beasts could do, and he knew they would not survive another fight in the open. She walked toward a narrow passage at the back of the chamber and motioned for him to follow. "This leads to the old tunnels," she said. "They will not think to search there yet." The tunnels were dim and narrow, the walls lined with strange pipes and cables. Their footsteps echoed softly, and the air carried a faint metallic scent. Daniel kept his eyes forward, matching her pace as they moved deeper underground. Every few moments she would stop, listening intently, her ears twitching slightly at sounds he could not hear. It was clear she had lived her life in danger for a long time. After what felt like an hour, they reached a large underground junction. Faint light spilled in from a crack in the ceiling, casting shadows across the floor. The woman stepped into the light, and Daniel could see her face more clearly now. There was strength in her features, but also a tiredness that spoke of battles fought and losses endured. He wondered how many times she had stood on the edge of survival like this. She knelt beside a hatch in the floor, pressing her hand to another hidden panel. The hatch opened with a soft hiss, revealing a spiral staircase leading further down. "This is where I was headed before they found me," she said. "A place where I can keep what I carry safe." Her eyes met his, and for the first time, he saw something like gratitude there. As they descended, Daniel noticed the hum of machinery growing louder. The walls here were older, the metal worn and scratched. At the bottom, the staircase opened into a vast chamber filled with strange, crystalline structures, each one glowing faintly in the dark. The woman moved toward the largest crystal and placed her hand on it. Light flared around her, bathing the room in a warm golden glow. Daniel stood back, watching as the crystal seemed to respond to her presence. For a moment, the air felt charged, almost alive. Then she turned toward him, her voice calm but certain. "If I fall, this must not. Promise me, human." He met her gaze and nodded, realizing that whatever she carried was not just hers. It was something that might change the fate of both their worlds. Daniel stepped closer to the crystal, feeling the warmth radiating from its surface. The golden light reflected off his weapon and armor, making the whole chamber glow in a surreal beauty. He could see his own face in the crystal surface, distorted slightly by the faint ripples of energy moving within. It was as if the object had a pulse, a heartbeat that echoed faintly in the air around them. The alien woman withdrew her hand slowly, the light dimming but never fully fading. She turned to him, her voice low yet steady. "This is the heart of Velra. It holds the memory of my people, our history, our secrets. If they destroy it, all that we are will vanish forever." Her golden eyes locked on his, and he understood the gravity of what she was asking from him. He rested the butt of his rifle on the ground, thinking for a moment. "Why me?" he asked. "Why trust a human with something this important?" She gave a faint, almost sad smile. "Because my people are nearly gone. And because you did not run when you saw me surrounded. You fought for me without knowing why. That is rare among any species." A distant rumble echoed through the chamber, making the ground tremble under their feet. Daniel's grip tightened on his weapon. The woman turned her head toward the sound, her expression sharpening instantly. "They are coming," she said, "and they will not stop until this is destroyed or in their hands." She moved to the side of the crystal and activated a hidden control panel, revealing a small compartment at its base. Inside the compartment lay a sphere no bigger than a human heart. It pulsed with the same golden light as the crystal, but its glow was more concentrated, almost fierce. She picked it up carefully, cradling it in both hands. "This can carry the heart's essence. We can move it, but once removed, they will sense it. We must be ready for the fight to come." Daniel adjusted the strap on his rifle and took a step toward her. "Then we move now," he said firmly. She nodded once, placing the sphere inside a protective case and securing it to her side. They started toward the staircase, the hum of the crystal fading behind them as they ascended. The tension in the air grew heavier with every step they took. When they reached the tunnel junction again, Daniel paused to listen. Faint scratching noises echoed from somewhere ahead, followed by a deep growl that made the hair on his neck. "Stand up." The woman drew her blade, its energy humming in the darkness. "Hunters," she whispered. "They have found the path." A shape moved in the shadows, fast and low to the ground. Daniel raised his rifle and fired, the muzzle flash lighting up the tunnel for an instant. The creatures screeched and fell, but more shapes surged forward. The woman leapt into their path, her blade slicing through flesh and bone with unyielding precision. Daniel covered her from behind, each shot dropping another beast before it could reach them. Blood and smoke filled the narrow tunnel, but they did not stop. The creatures came in waves, their glowing eyes fixed on the case at her. Sighed. Daniel's breathing grew heavier, his shoulder aching from the recoil, but he kept firing. The woman fought with relentless speed, her movements a blur of light and steel. Finally, the last hunter fell, its body collapsing into the dust at their feet. They stood in silence for a moment, the echoes of the battle fading. The woman met his eyes and gave a short nod. "We keep moving," she said, her voice quiet but firm. Without another word, they pressed on into the darkness, carrying the heart's essence toward an uncertain future. The tunnel opened into a vast underground chamber, its ceiling supported by massive stone pillars that seemed older than anything Daniel had seen above ground. Faint streams of light filtered through cracks high above, casting long shadows across the uneven floor. The air here felt still, almost too still, as if the place itself was holding its breath. The alien woman slowed her pace, scanning the area with sharp eyes. She motioned for Daniel to keep quiet, her hand raised in warning. Somewhere in the distance, a faint tapping echoed, rhythmic and deliberate. Daniel tightened his grip on his rifle, knowing that sound rarely meant anything good. She stepped forward, her blade already glowing faintly in her hand. A sudden movement caught his eye near one of the pillars. Daniel raised his weapon, but before he could fire, a figure stepped into view. It was not a beast this time, but an armored alien soldier, its helmet smooth and faceless. The soldier's weapon was already aimed at them, but the woman moved. First, a blur of motion as she closed the distance and struck the weapon from its hands. The soldier staggered back, but more appeared from behind the pillars, their armor gleaming under the dim light. Daniel opened fire, each shot precise and deliberate. The alien woman danced between her enemies, her blade cutting arcs of light in the gloom. Sparks flew as steel clashed with alien metal, and the air filled with the sharp scent of ozone from discharged energy weapons. One soldier lunged toward Daniel, forcing him back against a pillar. He slammed the rifle stock into the attacker's faceplate, cracking the surface before firing point blank. The soldier dropped, and Daniel turned just in time to see the woman drive her blade through another. Their movements were fast, almost too fast to follow, but they fought in perfect rhythm, each covering the other's blind spots. When the last soldier fell, the woman wasted no time. She moved to the center of the chamber, kneeling to inspect a patch of floor covered in dust. With a quick swipe of her hand, she revealed another set of glowing symbols etched into the stone. Daniel watched as she pressed her palm to the symbols, activating a mechanism that made the floor tremble. A section of the stone slid aside, revealing a hidden platform. The woman stepped onto it and gestured for Daniel to join her. As soon as he did, the platform began to lower into darkness, lit only by the faint glow of the runes on the walls. The sound of stone grinding against stone filled the air as they descended deeper than Daniel thought possible. When the platform finally stopped, they stepped into a smaller chamber lined with strange machines. Some were broken, their metal frames twisted and corroded, while others still glowed faintly as if waiting to be used. In the center stood a pedestal, and the woman approached it with measured steps. She placed the case containing the heart's essence onto the pedestal, and the machines around them hummed to life. Golden light spilled out, filling the chamber and washing over both of them. Daniel felt warmth seep into his bones, chasing away the fatigue and aches from their battles. The woman closed her eyes, standing perfectly still, as if listening to something only she could hear. When she finally spoke, her voice was calm but edged with urgency. "This place will protect the heart for now, but they will follow the scent of its power here." Daniel nodded, checking the magazine on his rifle before stepping closer to her. "Then we make sure they never get through," he said. She met his eyes and gave a small but genuine smile. For a moment, the weight of their situation seemed to lift, replaced by a shared resolve. Whatever came next, they would face it together. Hum of the machines filled the chamber, steady and almost soothing. Daniel paced the edges of the room, scanning every possible entrance while the alien woman worked at the pedestal. Her fingers moved across the controls with practiced precision, adjusting settings and locking sequences into place. The golden light from the heart's essence bathed her in a glow that made her armor and hair shimmer like something out of a dream. She paused for a moment, glancing at him. "When they come, they will not stop until we are dead or the heart is theirs," she said. Daniel simply nodded, his jaw tight. He had been in hopeless battles before, but this felt different. This was not just survival. This was about keeping something alive that might be bigger than either of them. A sudden vibration shuddered through the floor. Dust rained from the ceiling as the runes on the walls flared brighter, reacting to something above. The woman's head snapped toward the sound, her golden eyes narrowing. "They have found the way down," she said. Daniel slung his rifle forward and took position near the narrow entrance at the far end of the chamber. The first intruder came in fast, a hunter beast, its jaws snapping as it lunged. Daniel's rifle barked in controlled bursts, tearing the creature down before it could reach him. The woman was already moving, her blade cutting down a second beast that followed. The air filled with the snarls and roars of more hunters flooding in, their glowing eyes locking on the heart's pedestal. They fought side by side, their movements a perfect balance of precision and fury. Daniel's shots rang out in sharp rhythm, every pull of the trigger dropping another enemy. The woman's blade sang through the air, each strike clean and final. But the numbers kept growing, and the heat of battle pressed in on them like a suffocating weight. One beast slammed into Daniel, knocking him to the ground. Its claws tore into the floor inches from his head, before he managed to jam his rifle into its chest and fire. The blast sent it sprawling, and he rolled back to his feet just as another leapt toward the woman. She spun, her blade catching the light as she cut it down midair. Then came the soldiers. Armored and armed with energy rifles, they advanced. In formation, firing as they moved. Daniel dove behind a pillar, returning fire in short bursts to keep them back. The woman deflected incoming shots with her blade, each block sparking brightly in the dim chamber. The air grew thick with the smell of scorched metal and burned ozone. A soldier broke through the line and charged straight for the pedestal. The woman intercepted him, her strike shattering his weapon before driving him back with a kick that sent him crashing into the wall. Daniel dropped two more with quick, controlled shots, but they both knew the tide would turn if they didn't. End this quickly. With a shout, the woman activated a sequence on the pedestal. The golden light intensified, pulsing outward in waves that pushed the attackers back. The hunters screeched and retreated, their bodies convulsing under the energies. Force. The soldiers faltered, their armor sparking violently before they collapsed to the floor, unmoving. The chamber fell silent, except for the fading hum of the heart. Daniel lowered his rifle, breathing hard. She stepped toward him, her eyes steady, despite the exhaustion on her face. "It will sleep now," she said, gesturing to the heart. "But it is not safe here forever." We will need to move it again someday. Daniel met her gaze and gave a small nod. Whatever the future held, they had survived this fight together, and he knew he would keep his word to guard her and what she carried with everything he had. The air in the chamber was heavy with the scent of battle, but now there was also a strange calm. The heart's glow had faded to a soft, steady light, casting gentle shadows across the walls. Daniel leaned against a pillar, his rifle resting at his side, listening to the quiet hum that still filled the room. The alien woman was kneeling beside the pedestal, her hands resting lightly on its surface, as if she could feel its pulse through the metal. She looked up at him, her expression thoughtful. "You fought with no promise of reward," she said softly. "Few would do that for someone not of their own kind." Daniel shrugged slightly, though his gaze did not waver. "Doesn't matter what you are," he replied. "If you're in danger and I can help, I will." The corners of her lips curved into the faintest smile at his words. Moving to the far wall, she activated another panel hidden within the stone. A map appeared, glowing lines marking paths through the tunnels beneath the city. "They will regroup," she said, pointing to a cluster of passages. "When they come again, they will strike here, here, and here." Daniel stepped closer, studying the map with a soldier's eye. He could already see where they might hold the line. The woman touched a section of the map that glowed brighter than the rest. "There is another safe place, far from here. A sanctuary my people built before the war reached our homeworld. If we can get the heart there, it will be beyond their reach for years." Daniel knew the journey would be dangerous, but he also knew staying meant certain defeat. He nodded once in agreement. Before they could plan further, a low rumble shook the ground. Daniel spun toward the entrance, hearing the distant thud of something massive moving through the tunnels. The woman's hand went to her blade instantly. "They send the war beast," she said. "It will not stop until it crushes everything in its path." Her voice was calm, but there was a sharp edge of urgency beneath it. Daniel reloaded his rifle, the sound of the magazine locking into place echoing in the chamber. "Then we take it down before it gets here," he said. She gave a single sharp nod and moved toward the tunnel mouth, her steps light despite the weight of the moment. The faint tremor underfoot grew stronger with each passing second. The first sign of the war beast was its shadow, stretching across the tunnel wall before its body emerged. It was enormous, its armored hide glistening under the dim light, and its eyes burned with a savage red glow. Daniel opened fire, his round sparking harmlessly against its thick plating. The woman darted forward, her blade striking at the gaps. In its armor, each blow precise and unyielding, the war beast roared, swinging one massive claw that sent her skidding across the stone floor. Daniel moved to cover her, firing into its mouth as it roared again. This time the rounds found softer flesh, and the beast staggered back with a pained bellow. She was already on her feet, charging once more, her blade cutting a deep line along its throat. With a final howl, the war beast collapsed, its bulk shaking the ground as it hit the floor. Daniel lowered his rifle slowly, scanning for any sign of more enemies. The woman stood over the fallen creature, her chest rising and falling with controlled breaths. She turned to him, her voice steady. "We must leave now. Others will follow." The scent of this battle. Daniel stepped to her side, his eyes meeting hers. "Lead the way," he said simply. She gave him one last lingering look before turning toward the map still glowing on the wall. Without another word, they began moving, each step taking them closer to the sanctuary and further from the death they had just escaped. The tunnels ahead twisted and branched like the roots of a vast ancient tree. Daniel stayed close behind. The alien woman, his eyes scanning every shadow for movement. The glow from her armor cast just enough light for them to see a few paces ahead, while the rest of the path was swallowed in darkness. The steady sound of their boots on the stone floor was the only noise. a rhythm that marked their progress toward the sanctuary. She moved with certainty, never pausing at an intersection, as if the entire maze was etched into her memory. Daniel could see the focus in her golden eyes, the way her shoulders stayed squared and her grip on her blade never loosened. Whatever lay ahead, she was ready for it. He knew that without her, he would be lost in these tunnels within minutes. After nearly an hour of silent travel, the air began to change. It grew cooler, fresher, carrying a faint scent of vegetation. The woman slowed her pace and glanced back at him. "We are close," she said. Her voice held a note of relief, but her expression remained alert. Daniel adjusted his rifle, knowing danger could still strike at the last moment. They reached a massive door set into the rock, its surface covered in intricate carvings that seemed to shift when the light hit them. The woman stepped forward and pressed her palm to the center. Lines of light spread outward from her touch, tracing the patterns until the entire door glowed softly. With a deep rumble, it slid open, revealing a vast underground sanctuary bathed in golden light. Daniel stepped inside and froze. The chamber stretched farther than he could see, its walls lined with towering crystal formations that shimmered like captured sunlight. Pools of clear water reflected the light onto the ceiling, and in the distance, strange plants swayed gently, as if moved by an unseen breeze. The place radiated peace, a stark contrast to the chaos they had left behind. "This is where the heart will be safe," she said, moving toward a central platform that rose from the floor. She placed the case on it, and as soon as she stepped back, the crystals around the room flared brightly. A wave of warmth spread outward, carrying with it a sense of calm that settled deep in Daniel's bones. For the first time since the invasion began, he felt they might truly have a chance. The woman turned to him, her eyes softer now. "You have guarded me when no one else would," she said. "I owe you more than my life. My people will know your name, even if the galaxy forgets." Daniel shook his head slightly. "I didn't do it for recognition," he replied. "I did it because it was right." Her smile this time was genuine, touched with something warmer than gratitude. Before either of them could speak again, a faint sound echoed from the tunnel behind them. Daniel's hand went to his rifle instantly, but the woman raised a hand. Listening. After a moment, she relaxed. "It is nothing. The sanctuary is hidden now. No one can find it without my mark." She walked toward one of the crystal pools and looked into the water, her reflection shimmering alongside the light. Daniel stepped beside her, the silence between them no longer tense but companionable. In that quiet moment, he understood that this journey had changed them both. She was no longer just someone he had saved, and he was no longer just her protector. They had fought, bled, and survived together, bound now by trust forged in fire and danger. When they finally turned away from the pool, she met his gaze one last time. "Guard me still, human," she said, her voice low but steady, "and I will be more than grateful for all my days." Daniel nodded, knowing he would keep that promise for as long as he lived. Asterisk.